Once upon a time in a village of Adibeo, nestled between rolling hills and sparkling rivers, lived a young woman unlike any other. Amara was known for her kind heart and the longest arms in the village. While others had been blessed with beauty and grace, Amara's arms made her a subject of ridicule and mockery. But it wasn't always this way. Long ago, her arms were her gift, yet in a world that prized perfection, they became her curse. Adibeo, a village blessed with peace and prosperity. Here, every villager is known for their contribution, and harmony reigns. But one woman, Amara, is different. Her arms, longer than most, make her stand apart, a difference that draws both curiosity and mockery. As Amara walks through the village, whispers follow her like shadows. Giant arms. Clumsy Amara, the cruel names ring in her ears. With every step, the mocking grows louder, each taunt a reminder of how different she is. In her quiet moments, Amara recalls the years of torment. As a child, her arms were once a source of wonder. But now, they are only a reminder of every cruel word spoken in her direction, of every sneer, every laugh that echoed through the village. Despite the ridicule, Amara continues to help where she can. Her arms, the same ones that are the subject of mockery, are capable of feats that others can't even imagine. She lifts what others can't, reaches what others can't see, but the villagers see her help as nothing more than another oddity. The village buzzes with excitement. The prince, Oluwaseun, heir to the throne, has returned to Adibeo. They said his heart, as noble as his lineage, is searching for a worthy partner. The festival will soon begin, and with it, a chance for someone to change their destiny. But Amara wonders, could someone like her, someone different, ever be considered worthy? Amara's friends, those she once called close, are now a source of doubt. You don't belong with someone of his status, they say, their words sharp. The prince, with his refined looks and royal blood, could never see her. She's reminded, once again, that she's too different, too much of an outcast, in the comfort of her home. Amara shares her fears with her mother. Your arms may be long, her mother says, but your heart is even bigger. Never let anyone make you feel small. The world may not see your worth now, but you will find your place. And for the first time in a long while, Amara feels a flicker of hope. Despite the fears and doubts, Amara decides to take a chance. She will attend the festival not to win the prince's heart, but to witness the life she dreams of, the one she's always been told is out of her reach. Perhaps, just perhaps, this is the moment where everything changes. The festival had begun in all its glory. Music, dance, and laughter filled the air as the villagers celebrated the return of Prince Oluwaseun, the heir to the throne. His presence was magnetic, his every movement a reminder of his royal bloodline. But amidst the celebration, one woman stood quietly on the outskirts, her heart pounding in her chest as she watched him from afar. Amara, different from the rest, with arms that set her apart, felt like an outsider in a world that had no place for her. As the music and festivities swirled around her, Amara couldn't help but stay at the edge of the crowd. She wasn't sure if she belonged in such a place, yet her gaze kept drifting to Prince Oluwaseun, who stood at the center of it all. But then, a simple, unthinking gesture caught the attention of the prince. As a group of women struggled to reach a basket high above, Amara's long arms reached effortlessly above their heads, taking the basket down with ease. It was a gesture that drew more than just their gaze. Prince Oluwaseun had noticed her. Prince Oluwaseun moved through the crowd with grace, his eyes locked on Amara as though drawn by an invisible thread. The villagers watched in stunned silence as he approached her, curiosity in their eyes. Amara, still unaware of the impact her actions had made, lowered her arms, suddenly aware of the prince's gaze upon her. The world seemed to pause in that moment. And she felt the weight of her difference more keenly than ever. But the prince's voice was warm, not mocking. As he spoke, "You have arms like no other woman I've ever seen," Prince Oluwaseun said, his voice soft but filled with admiration. "But I must say, they are quite graceful, like an extension of who you are. I've never seen someone move with such elegance." Amara blinked, her heart racing at his unexpected compliment. It was the first time someone had spoken to her about her arms with such kindness. Graceful. Elegant. The words felt like a warm embrace. As the prince and Amara spoke, the whispers of the village grew louder. Some saw the bond between them as nothing more than a fleeting curiosity, a prince intrigued by a strange woman. Others, like Amara's friends, couldn't hide their disapproval. "He'll never love her," they muttered. "She doesn't belong to the class of the prince. She's too different." Amara felt the weight of their judgment, but something deep inside urged her to ignore the whispers. Prince Oluwaseun led Amara away from the crowd, into the quiet serenity of the royal gardens. As they walked, side by side, the noise of the festival faded into the distance. Here, in this tranquil space, it was just the two of them, sharing their stories. The prince spoke of his own insecurities, of the pressure to live up to his royal heritage, of the loneliness that came with the title of prince. Amara listened, her heart swelling with empathy. In his words, she found something she had never expected: common ground. She wasn't the only one who felt like an outsider. Under the shade of an ancient tree, Amara and Prince Oluwaseun began to form a bond that was deeper than mere conversation. Laughter bubbled between them as they shared stories, their barriers slowly dissolving. For the first time in her life, Amara felt seen. Not for her arms, not for her differences, but for who she truly is. And for the prince, the mysterious woman with the long arms had become more than just an enigma. She had become a person he wanted to know more of. "Amara," the prince said, his voice low and steady, "I see beyond your arms. What others don't understand is that you are full of kindness, wisdom, and strength. And it is that strength that I admire most." Amara's heart fluttered, her breath catching in her throat. These weren't the words of a prince just offering polite compliments. They were the words of someone who saw her for who she truly is, and he cared. The first time in her life she has felt this way. King Adewole's voice boomed through the palace halls. "My son, you cannot allow this to happen. You cannot allow this woman to taint our royal bloodline." The king's words were sharp, every syllable cutting through the air like a blade. The king's displeasure was unmistakable, his authority wrapping around the room like an iron chain. To him, Amara's unusual arms were not just a difference, they were a disgrace to royal tradition. "My son, can't you see this lady is nowhere close to royalty, a lady that a commoner in this village won't marry, and you are wholly heir to the throne, you want to marry, you will stop seeing her," King Adewale demanded, his tone final. "A prince must marry a woman worthy of the throne. A symbol of perfection and strength. She is not that woman and can never be that woman." But Prince Oluwaseun's heart burned with rebellion. "Father, what you call imperfection is her strength. You don't see her as I do." The king's silence was heavy, but his gaze was unyielding. Tradition would not bend easily. "My son, this lady is not fit to be the queen. Even the villagers won't allow someone they make mockery of to be their queen." "No, my son, never." When the prince told her of the king's disapproval, Amara's world cracked. Every cruel word the villagers had ever thrown at her came rushing back like a storm. Was love truly worth fighting for when the cost was so high? She stared at her arms, those long, awkward limbs that had made her both useful and mocked. For the first time, she wondered if they were her curse after all. That night, under the silver glow of the moon, the lovers met in secret. "I will fight for you, Amara," the prince whispered, his hands gripping hers. "I will prove to my father that you are worthy." Amara's voice trembled as she replied, "And what if we fail? What if love isn't enough to change a king's heart?" The wind carried her fear into the night, but the prince held her closer. "Love is enough. You are enough." The rumor spread like wildfire. Some mocked the very idea. A prince with her, their laughter ringing through the air. Others, softer in their tone, whispered their secret admiration for her courage. But the harshest sting came from her own friends. "You're delusional, Amara," they sneered. "He's a prince. You're just a girl with freakish arms." Each word drove deeper than the last, but Amara kept walking, her heart pounding in defiance. When Prince Oluwaseun confronted his father again, his voice held fire. "If you cannot see her worth, then let her prove it. Give her a chance." The king's brows furrowed as he studied his son. After a long silence, his voice came like a verdict. "Very well. If this Amara girl can pass the trials of strength, wisdom, and courage, she will earn her place and you will be allowed to marry her. But if she fails, you won't be allowed to marry her and will also not be seen close to you." The prince accepted without hesitation. For love, he would stake everything. The news of the trials reached Amara, and fear settled in her chest like a stone. But beneath the fear, something stronger began to stir: a quiet, fiery determination. This was more than love now. This was about proving her worth not only to the king but to herself. Her long arms, once mocked, would become her weapon, her strength. She would not fail. Amara encouraged herself and said, "I will not fail. I will prove to the king and the entire village that I may be different but am worthy." "You've always been worthy, my daughter," her mother said softly, her voice steady as a drumbeat. Her mother encouraged her, "Your strength does not come from your arms, but from the heart that beats inside you. Walk into those trials knowing this: there is no challenge in this world that can break a woman who knows her worth." And with those words, Amara's fear melted away, replaced with something unshakable: hope. The royal palace was transformed into a grand arena, the air heavy with excitement and anticipation. Villagers, nobles, and the royal court gathered in a massive circle, eyes fixed on the arena in the center. Today was the day of Amara's trial, a test to prove her worth to the kingdom and the king himself. Amara stood on the edge of the crowd, feeling a mix of fear and resolve. This was her moment, the one that could change everything. The air was thick with tension as Amara stepped into the royal courtyard. The crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on her every move. The king's eyes pierced her, unwavering in his skepticism. Today, she would face 3 trials, each more grueling than the last. Would her arms, her strength, be enough? The crowd held their breath as the first trial began. The first trial was a test of strength. Amara was asked to lift and carry a massive wooden beam, one so heavy that even the strongest men struggled to move it. With no hesitation, Amara extended her long arms, gripping the beam with ease. The crowd gasped in astonishment as she lifted it high, her muscles rippling with effortless strength. Her arms, once a source of ridicule, now proved to be her greatest asset. The second trial was one of wit. Amara was given a riddle, a puzzle of words meant to test her intelligence. The royal court watched closely, their expectations high. Amara read the riddle carefully. Her brow furrowed in concentration. With a smile, she solved it in a matter of moments, her mind sharp as ever. The crowd erupted in applause, impressed not just by her strength, but by her wisdom and intelligence. The final trial was a test of courage and resourcefulness. A mock disaster was staged, a car tipped over and spilling water, threatening to flood the village square. The villagers cried out in panic, but Amara remained calm. Her long arms reached out, lifting the cart with precision, while she directed the others to seal the barrels and stop the water. Her quick thinking saved the village from chaos, and the crowd couldn't help but cheer. Amara had not only shown strength, but courage and leadership as well. King Adewale watched in silence, his mind a battleground between pride and doubt. His eyes followed every movement of Amara, and though he remained stoic, there was a shift in his gaze. The trials were complete, and Amara had passed every one of them: strength, intelligence, and courage. Even he could not deny it. Amara had proven herself. But would he accept her? That question lingered in the air like a storm waiting to break. Throughout the trials, Prince Oluwaseun stood by Amara's side, his gaze unwavering, filled with pride. His love for her had only deepened with each test she overcame. His heart swelled with the knowledge that she was the one he had chosen to spend his life with. His support was not just that of a prince, but of a man who had found his equal, his partner in every sense. King Adewale stood on the balcony, his hands clasped behind his back, staring out over the courtyard where Amara had just triumphed. His mind was torn. His duty was to uphold the traditions of the royal family, but his heart told him something different. Amara had proven herself, not just to the court, but to him. Yet, the fear of what the kingdom would say still lingered. Would he risk the future of his family for the sake of his son's happiness? At last, King Adewale spoke. "Amara, you have proven yourself worthy of the title of my son's wife. But know this, our kingdom will not be the same after this day. The crowd held its breath as he continued. Though I fear the backlash, I see in you a strength that no one can deny. You have my blessing. The villagers, stunned at the king's words, began to cheer. Amara's heart soared as the weight of her journey lifted from her shoulders. She had done it. She and Prince Oluwaseun would begin their new chapter together, not just as lovers, but as equals. The day had arrived, and the entire village of Adibeo was brimming with excitement. The grand ceremony, once thought impossible, was finally happening, the royal wedding of Amara and Prince Oluwaseun. It wasn't just a union of two people, it was a celebration of love, resilience, and defying the odds. The air was thick with joy, and the village was alive with color. The royal wedding ceremony began with the whole village in attendance. The atmosphere was electric, with music, dance, and laughter filling the air. Amara, dressed in a beautiful gown, stood beside Prince Oluwaseun, their hands clasped tightly. As they exchanged vows, the crowd cheered, witnessing a love story that had triumphed over ridicule, hardship, and tradition. Today, Amara was no longer just the girl with long arms. Today, she was a queen. As the ceremony came to a close, King Adewale rose from his throne, his voice carrying across the kingdom. Today, I stand before you to acknowledge Amara. She has proven that strength is not measured by one's appearance, but by the heart and courage within. She has shown perseverance, love, and the resilience to overcome all challenges. The king's words were not just a father's blessing, but a king's acknowledgement of Amara's worth. As the celebrations raged on below, Amara and Prince Oluwaseun shared a moment of quiet reflection. The world around them was filled with music and cheer. But in this moment, they were alone together. Their love had not been easy. It had fought against ridicule, against tradition, and even against the king's doubts. But they had made it, hand in hand. Their love had triumphed, against all odds. Amara knelt before the king, her heart pounding with emotion. As King Adewale placed the golden crown on her head, the entire village erupted in cheers. Amara was no longer the girl who was mocked for her arms. She was now the queen, the symbol of strength, resilience, and love. Her long arms, once a cause for ridicule. Together, Prince Oluwaseun and Amara stood before their people, united in love and purpose. The village, which had once whispered cruel words about her, now looked up to Amara as their queen, not just as the prince's wife, but as a leader in her own right. Their love was no longer an oddity, it was the heartbeat of Adibeo's future. Amara's first royal decree was simple but powerful. I promise to lead with kindness, wisdom, and fairness, she declared, her voice steady and strong. I will serve the people with all that I am, for their struggles are my struggles, their joys are my joys. The court listened intently, and the villagers, watching from the palace courtyard, felt the weight of her words. She is their queen, and she would be their guiding light. The village, once filled with cruel whispers, was now a place of acceptance and celebration. Amara's triumph had changed everything. The villagers no longer mocked her, instead, they admired her strength, her resilience, and her heart. Amara had proven that the heart's true worth is measured not by appearance, but by the love it gives and the lives it touches. With the blessing of the king, Amara and Prince Oluwaseun began their reign as king and queen. Together, they would lead Adibeo into a new era, one defined by love, acceptance, and strength. Amara had not just earned the title of queen, she had earned the hearts of her people. She had become the symbol of what it truly meant to be royal, not in name, but in heart. True strength is not measured by what others see on the outside. It's found in the heart, its ability to love, to overcome, and to stand tall in the face of adversity. No matter your difference, your worth is defined by the courage to be yourself and the resilience to never give up on love.